All right. Hello, everybody. It's another episode of the Steve and Steve podcast. I'm Steve Jensen. That over there is Steve Silver.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, sir. How have you been?
Good. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm
Wrung out.
exhausted. Trump world is exhausting. MAGA is definitely trying us and all of our friends, and that's what we're here to do is to present some things in a condensed format just to let you know what's going on and
Yeah.
kind of uh, underneath the main layer of BS that's being put out there. What I've noticed since our last broadcast is the fractalization of MAGA World, the base, and various things like Marjorie Taylor Greene finally divorcing herself from Trump, which means she's got one functioning brain cell,
Right.
or the thing that happened a couple days ago with Mayor Mamdani showing up in the Oval Office and Trump, licking his face basically with
Right.
love. Have you seen this, and what are you reporting from your end of the world?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because obviously we pay attention to it and some people don't, but even the people that pay very close attention to it, I think how quickly the snowball started to roll downhill is kind of surprising, right? And in the last couple of weeks, it's been a lot. I've been noticing Uh, I mean, when the president of the United States sits down at his desk while you stand next to him and says, "No, it's okay. You can call me a fascist," right? Which is what he did with
Hmm.
my. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like, okay, where are we at here, right? And it went from I don't want to say despair because I don't ever want to have that emotion. Maybe like sometimes you can't help it, but it went from a baseline of this is not gonna. We're just gonna have to write this out to 2028 to now being like, okay, those elections, I think, were the big crack, right?
Yeah,
Everybody lost.
two
Everybody
weeks
that we
ago.
wanted to lose lost. Everybody that we wanted to win, even people we didn't think were going to win, won. And it's just like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
And I think that was maybe the first punch in the nose to the bully, or at least
yeah.
the first one that landed,
It's
right?
unfortunate that six senators pissed all that positive energy away with the healthcare vote.
Unbelievable.
On the shutdown. I don't think any
Well,
of us will forgive that or forget it.
I, I won't forgive that, but I do have one side note, which is kind of it's one of those things where it's kind of like you're watching the Super Bowl and you want to tell your friend, I bet this guy runs the kickoff for a touchdown, right?
Mhm.
I don't believe this is true, but I kind of want this to be what happens. And I'm thinking maybe it was a thought process. In January, we have to have this talk again,
Yeah,
right? And maybe it was just like, look, let's just stop the suffering for now because this guy's just entrenched and Stephen Miller and everybody. It's like, let's cut our losses and just push this down so that it's fresh in the media before the elections again. I don't, I want to believe that was some machinations behind the scenes, but I don't really think it was. But I'm
yeah,
hoping for that.
yeah,
But for the most part, I was so pissed and still am. You're right.
yeah.
You're right.
And record shutdown affected a lot of people. I was, taking some joy, obviously, along with a lot of our friends, in the fact that the thugs from ICE were not getting their paychecks. Their
That was
bills
my
were running
favorite
late.
part of that.
Of course, now they've all been caught up and paid, but for a while there, you know, that was good. And here's the side note on that: the National Guard has never been deployed, and they've left the Chicago metro area
Yep.
completely. And I called that. I said this will never happen. And the only reason he did it in D.C. is because it's a federalized area. It's a district,
Right.
right? It's not a state. There's no governor of D.C. So,
Right.
and there's lawsuits on that already, right? I mean, there's lawsuits everywhere against Trump from multiple states, multiple jurisdictions, and make your head spin. And I
Oh,
really,
yeah.
I really feel bad for all the career attorneys in the DOJ that have spanned multiple administrations that are just being forced to do things against their will, just
Right.
keep their paychecks. Um, we were talking about Marjorie leaving and trash talking Trump, and he's trash talking her, and in their usual style. It's all
Right.
over social media.
Of
If the
course.
two of them were face to face, they'd probably do a waltz together.
Right.
Um, the midterms are coming up. Illinois has their elections on the first Tuesday in March. There's a lot of people running for seats, not only in Illinois, but nationwide. A lot of Republicans are retiring or quitting, like Marjorie Taylor Greene is. She's just like, I'm done. I'm
Right.
quitting. Um, and the real division in MAGA world, the cult of MAGA world, are the white supremacist nationalists. Like,
Yeah.
I almost throw up in my mouth when I want to say his name, Nick Fuentes.
I was gonna bring him up. Yep.
Oh God! And the problem is, this kid is like 27 years old or something. He's got a long time ahead of him. Um, in terms of running his mouth for the next 30, 40 years. You and I
Right.
probably won't be around for that, but they're attacking, the high profile people within the Trump administration, like Cash Patel and his wife. Like,
Right.
racist MAGA world is its own kind of bucket. Really hates the fact that Cash Patel and his wife, Usha Vance, and all of these foreigners, according to them, are
Right.
are in government, and they hate that. And I take great joy in that there's that division.
I love that
And
division.
I'd love to see Cash Patel quit. I mean, he's probably one of the most unqualified FBI directors
Unbelievable.
ever, right?
Unbelievable. How going when you were talking about the how and I have the same empathy for the DOJ lawyers that are lifelong public servants, right? Just want
Yeah.
to do good. How there wasn't a cabal, for lack of a better word, of DOJ attorneys after that presentation when he was like, "No, I'm not going to tell you how many people are, how many times Trump's in the Epstein file. No, no, it's less, it's fewer. No, it's none of your business." That whole dismissive, it's like they should. There's a portfolio that started this thick, and by the time they're done, it's going to be this thick. And you can fuck with those people all you want, but lawyers love to keep the receipts, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, it's coming for cash, and he deserves it more. And then to say like his D-level girlfriend, beard, whatever, needs protection, and he needs to fly his private plane to go see it. And she's done more for the country than half of the public servants or whatever it was that he said, cracks me up. The racism that I was kind of surprised. I shouldn't say surprised because these guys don't surprise me with their racism. The one that I was surprised it came so quickly, though. And I know this is a sensitive subject, and I don't want to get too deep into too inside baseball with it, but obviously after the Charlie Kirk thing, there was a whole slew of, and then there's some, dark humored stuff, right? I have to say, the timing of JD Vance taking over for him and the widow Kirk giving
Mm,
him that very inappropriate run my
yeah.
fingers through your hair hug, coming out the same within 48 hours. I can't remember if it was before or after. I believe it was before, but I could be wrong on my timeline. Of the vice president, I want to be clear, not of the local Turners Club, but the vice president of the United States saying in a speech to curry favor with white supremacists, boy, I wish my wife, insert other, like you said, foreign, right? I wish my wife would embrace my white Christian faith.
Yeah.
That, by the way, I just jumped on board with because I thought it would do me some good. And the guy in charge of my white Christian faith, the Pope, thinks I'm doing it wrong. Has told me several times. I've had two popes tell me that I'm doing it wrong. Right.
He killed the
So,
last pope,
but,
right?
but, so there was that kind of weird thing, right? And now it went from this kind of snarky people on the left and podcasters and TikTokers kind of making light of it, like wow, this to there being a right wing faction that is pushing for Eric Kirk to be the new second lady. I
Right.
mean, they haven't even dropped a fucking heartbeat with this whole, well, yeah, we're super racist and we'd like the white lady to be the vice president's wife.
Yeah. And Usha Vance has been photographed now 3 times in the past month not wearing a wedding band in public events,
Yeah.
which I dialed in on and said, "Oh, that's telling." Um, this America First vision of that racist MAGA clan is, brown people are bad, yada yada yada. You have to be a Christian. That's what Christian nationalism. And by the way, you know, Vance's loyalty to his wife before he was vice president. Like you've seen JD Vance devolve, right? He was the guy
Right.
that said Trump was Hitler, this, that, and the other. He wrote a book.
Right.
He optioned a movie deal. He made some coin on that. But
Right.
then when he found out that he could be elevated to the national stage, um, loyalty in MAGA world is a one-way street, like
Absolutely.
with Trump, and his loyalty to his wife is clearly in question. And
Yes.
the photograph of him putting his hands on Erica Kirk's hips, um, I'd probably get the frying pan right up the side of my head from my wife if I was photographed
Oh,
doing that.
I'd be
Uh,
done. I'd be sleeping in your garage, you know?
I tell you what. So, we have a blue wave coming up in the midterms, and I urge everybody to vote blue, send the message. Finally, we didn't get the chance during the last presidential election with President Harris, who I wish were president today.
Yeah.
Um, the other big topic that's been, happening is this pushing the message, this commercial that went out last week. Um, Ignore illegal orders.
Yes.
Mark Kelly and a few other elected officials who are veterans of the armed services or the CIA put out a brilliant commercial. And I urge everybody to watch it. I'll put a link to it in the comments. But, and of course, the spin machine, both in the White House and Fox News, were like, you can't disobey presidential orders. It's like, no, they can obey illegal orders or
Right.
unethical orders, and that they tried to throw that against the wall, see if it would stick, and it didn't stick.
Right. Yeah. The Well, first of all, the sad part about what you just said is I would guarantee you, I'm going to be conservative here for a second
Hmm.
in my number.
Role play.
I would guarantee you that 60% of MAGA has no idea that part of the code of honor and code of conduct for the military is, and it's right at the top, is to ignore illegal orders. It is your duty as an American citizen.
Yep.
I would bet that most of MAGA thinks, well, he's the president, he can do what he wants, and that includes they believe he can just move. And you know what? We got what 38 dead people in boats that proves so far he's been able to do whatever he wants with the military.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's going to go much further than that,
Yeah.
but then I've been wrong about other things. But I have always said, and I'm a tiny bit older than you, but I've said since the end of the Nixon era up until right now, and it's way worse now, it really is. But I've always said, and been proven right almost always, it's the guy doing the job, it's the woman at the gun turret that loves their country so much they volunteered to work for the government, right? Whether
Hmm.
it's in the military or in the DOJ or
Right.
in the office of the Library of Congress,
Right. These are not. These
and
are
they
these are public jobs, lower
pub
pay than the private sector.
right, and these people are the ones. And how this gets proven to me is there are so many Trump and McConnell appointed lawyers, the judges, that are like, no, that's not what the Constitution says. Guy who gave me my job.
Right.
You know what I mean? No, you can't do that. What do you mean? I gave you your job. Doesn't matter. I am, the job becomes more than the person in a lot of instances.
Right.
This is how,
And that's my hope for the Supreme Court
that's what
too.
got
Right.
Nixon to fall, right?
Yeah. I mean, you appoint somebody a judge, a Supreme Court justice, a career position within the government at whatever level.
Yeah.
Um, and then that's the loyalty is a one-way street thing. and they're not
Yeah.
giving it back to him, and
Right.
that's another fracture of MAGA
And
world.
it's giving him a hard time. But there are just people that are just, and I truly believe, like when he gave that going away speech and said that the military doesn't serve a dictator or a king, and Trump about had a heart attack,
General
unfortunately
Milley.
didn't, but it was just like, that's a guy who spent his entire life, whether you are for it or against it, that guy dedicated his life to this country.
Yeah.
And his parting gift was, this guy is about to kill some people he shouldn't. And it came true. That's why when it came out that he reached out to our enemies, which weren't our enemies at the time, but whatever, and said, hey, and that story hasn't come out fully, but he has said, yeah, I reached out to China and said, I'm here. I'm here during these last few scary days, right? Because it was like, what if this guy just sends a bomb to China so he doesn't have to leave the White House? That was a real thing. If anybody who cares to remember it, just 6 years ago, right, or whatever, we actually thought it could happen. I'm pretty sure he's trying it with the boats and stuff. He's trying to become a wartime president. He refers to
Well,
himself as a wartime president all
you
the
can't
time.
get a Nobel Prize after invading Venezuela, right? A peace prize.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if he wants to invade Venezuela, I say go ahead, try it. It's going to fail. A lot of U.S.
Right.
soldiers are going to end up dead um, if he puts boots on the ground.
Right.
Um, but Fox News is trying to portray these boats as well. They're long cigarette style boats, and they're full of bales of stuff.
Right.
And they're going 120 miles an hour on the water, and they're going straight north. So they're trying to say these aren't sailboats, these aren't yachts, these aren't pleasure craft, right? And there's one or two guys driving the boat. Now, does it look like a drug runner boat? Yeah. But justice still in the open ocean, international waters, still has to prevail. And there has to be a system to doing things. And you can't just willy nilly go and execute people. And look, the US government and leaders have executed people for the past 100 years, et cetera.
Right.
Um, but in this current frame of time, um, it's problematic. And it's just one of those many lawsuits against the administration.
I had a I can't remember. I can't remember who it was. I feel bad. A friend of mine, we were just talking about it, and he's like, "What if this is just Pete Hegseth blowing shit up so that he can be the boss's favorite?" And it's all reverse engineered. Like, it wasn't even Trump's idea. It wasn't even on his radar. Pete Hegseth with the word warrior fighters.
Right.
We're war fighters. No one's going to have a beard or a belly in the fucking military anymore. And the dead silence that greeted him when he demanded an audience of
Mm-hmm.
leaders. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
had to drop what they're doing. Those guys aren't like, and no offense to you, so don't take any, but those guys aren't like me or you. My boss calls me and goes, hey, I need you to come down to Springfield or to New York for a meeting next Tuesday. I'm okay. I'm on a plane or I drive or whatever, right? It's okay. My shop will run fine without me for a day or two. These guys are like high command, ever vigilant, air,
Yeah.
land, sea, our entire military complex. Hey, I need you guys to come so I can walk around and scream at you on
Yeah.
national television.
Could have been done over an email.
Right. This meeting of military leaders could have definitely been an email. But somebody posited to me that it's like, this is just Pete Hegseth coming up with this thing.
Flexing.
Like, and I 100% know I don't know for a fact, but I know in my heart that we understand where the drugs are coming from and we catch as many as we can. And it is what it is. And we've known about those boats forever.
Yeah.
Hegseth saw low hanging fruit, curry
Yeah.
favor with the boss. Maybe when they fire JD Vance, I can be the vice president. Who knows? Right.
Hegseth is definitely on a mission to show how big and bad ass he is.
Yeah.
And I think our audience and most of our friends think that he's an embarrassment. I certainly do.
Yeah.
Um, and he tries to big dog his way. His level of machismo is laughable. It's an act.
It is.
And I categorize guys like you and me as alpha liberals, and
Right.
this guy's nowhere near the um, level of agita that you and I have gone through in our lives here in this urban area. Tightly packed in, a lot of
Right.
stress, late nights, etc. He hasn't seen any action really. Um,
Oh
and
no, he's the guy that when I worked at Metro or Exit, where I would have tossed him out without a problem. He would have been causing a problem. I would have thrown him out. He's the guy that would be standing all the way across the street, all the way
bitching
across, calling me a motherfucker and a pussy and every
as
kind of
he's
epithet
walking
you
away.
can
Yeah,
think of. And as soon as I stepped off the curb to come towards him, would you back up?
yeah,
That's who
we've all
PJ's like.
seen that guy for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Who do you think's going to be the first person to get fired?
Oh man. Well, I've been thinking about this a little bit before we even knew this is what we're going to talk about today. And I have to tell you, and I have an odd reason for it,
Hmm.
but I think it's Cash Patel.
Yeah,
Two couple reasons. One we've already touched on, which you brought up, and I agree with, which is the white supremacy in that group. It's like the force is strong in this one.
right,
It's like
right.
there is no listen. I don't care how long I've known you, if you've been a Republican your entire life, and I have friends who have been Republicans who are disgusted with Trump and don't even identify as Republicans anymore. I will say that, right? But I don't care who you are, what your rationale is. You need to own that you are the party of white supremacy,
Yeah,
period. And that's the end of the sentence, right? I think that's part of it. I also think a big part of it is he's just, I think he's here.
it's out of his league.
Epstein's coming up, right?
Yeah,
What are we going to see? What are we not going to see? I don't know. But I do know that the French supposedly have a complete and utter unedited version of everything. So we'll see. But everybody's like, everybody says, oh, well, Trump just gave up and said, I'll sign it. Right. Well, first of all, it's just the unclassified stuff. It takes 30 days to release. And he probably thinks, and I shit you not, the 1,000 FBI agents who have been scrubbing those documents for his name under Cash Patel's direction, he probably thinks he's out of it. He's not, but he probably does believe it. So now Cash is at the end of his usefulness as far as that goes, right?
yeah.
So a couple things. Somehow it gets released. It looks really bad for him, which it would have to if it's truthful, and Cash goes because Cash let him down. Or it's about to get released and he makes a kerfuffle and fires Cash and tries to deflect even more light on the report before it gets released.
You're not wrong. I think everybody's talking about, well, the files have been and now are being more redacted.
Right.
And my counter to that is everything you've seen with the judges and the stuff we've mentioned about good people throwing up blocks to
Right.
the madness. There are a handful or less of people doing the work that was asked of them, the dirty work, the redactions,
Right.
or there are people who have preceded this administration that have made copies of all this stuff. There's not one book of documents that everybody's passing around and redacting. This,
Right.
like with the French idea, there are multiple copies of this, and if he thinks what's going to be presented is the final version, there's going to be a surprise. And if he fires Cash Patel for that, great. That means that the unredacted stuff is true, and it's going to gain traction.
Right. I I have to say that yeah, I think, and plus it's again, I don't know the math, but let's just say 60 to 70% of it is it's okay to fire him. He's not white. My base will be happy that I fired him for no other reason other than he is not
Yeah,
a white cis male, right?
yeah, yeah.
I I I just yeah, I think he's it. But the thing is, now here comes the weird part.
Mm,
Levitt, this is my black horse, right? My black dog. Levitt, when she has to spin this report that Cash Patel has dropped the ball on and that Pam Bondi has dropped the ball on, it could be Bondi, but I think it'll be Levitt. I think it'll be Levitt because he'll think she didn't lie effusively enough or whatever. Even though she's white, she's a woman, which is the second worst thing you can be in MAGA,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
First of all, it's non-white. Second of all, it's non-male, and that could depend on the guy that you're asking.
So
But
she's number 2 on your list of getting let go.
that's Levitt.
Yeah.
That's number two.
Okay.
Think, I think in that case, barring that case, uh, I almost think that his next move after that might be at some point to get rid of Rubio.
Really?
Again, kind
Yeah.
of the other Rubio really wants people to think he's a white cis male, right?
Yeah.
He's not.
Like Ted
I mean,
Cruz.
right, exactly. But I think that I mean, Marco Rubio, basically, you just look at him and can see that his soul has left him, right?
Yeah.
And did you see that? I'm assuming you saw the thing yesterday where they're like, the U.S. had nothing to do with this ceasefire with Russia, and Rubio wasn't even a part of it. And then he puts out a statement, late in the afternoon. Oh, the U.S. wrote this, and then it's like, wait a minute, the U.S. wrote this thing where it's like, well, if you just give up all this land and
Yeah.
don't protect yourself and don't join the UN, it's like you didn't write that, dude. Stop.
No, it was you can't join NATO
Right.
and you have to give up 1/5 of your country. And that 1/5 of the Donbass is the area in question in Ukraine, is half of it's occupied by Russian troops and the other half is not. And these are tens of thousands of acres of land. I don't think Zelensky's going to give up anything. There's been too much bloodshed. But
I
yeah,
think so too.
Rubio had to save face and say, "Oh, this is our idea.
Yeah.
We wrote this up at the State Department." No,
Yeah.
you didn't. And I say keep on fighting until Putin gives up. I mean,
Exactly.
Putin's out of money anyway. Putin's
Yeah.
struggling to find money. People are hungry in Russia. It's not a good time to be living in Russia
It is
by
not.
any means.
Yeah. So that's my 1, 2. Are those your 1 and 2, or do you have something
I
different?
like I like Cash Patel as being number 1 on the hit list. But people talk about getting rid of Vance, or there's no way a president would fire a sitting vice president. And I don't think you can really. I think it would be a forced resignation. Like, here's your resignation letter you're going to read. He can't
Yeah.
just fire him because he wasn't appointed by Trump. But
Right.
I don't think that's plausible. But I think Christy Nome and Hegseth are putting on such an over the top aggressive performance with their thugs underneath them that they are trying to insulate themselves from the firing list. And
A
so
hundred
anybody
percent.
who's not doing that, right?
Yeah.
And Cash Patel's number 1. I don't disagree about Levitt. God, what a horrible human being, the way
What
she
a
talks to
horrible, horrible
people.
human being.
Um, and I cannot wait for this administration to be out of power so that the adults can come back into power.
Exactly. It's,
I don't watch her pressers at
I
all.
can't. I can't anymore. Um, you know, we've talked about this. It's like the man on the street, for lack of a thing. Yeah. The the there is a lot of lack of awareness of how bad she is with people who don't pay attention.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But I don't know that makes her. I just think it makes her second at some point. But that has to be the domino. Cash has to go. Something bad has to have happened to predicate that, and she's kind of tossed out in the wash. If that doesn't happen, if it's just Cash is going to go because he's not doing a good enough job, then it's Rubio, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, you're right. I think Noam and Hegseth are such sycophants and doing what he wants, right?
yeah,
It's like the Twilight Zone. Like the kid's got all the power. It's like, do what I want, do what I want. And he claps when the adults do the right. That's what those two are doing. I mean, those constant commercials of hers are ridiculous. And you just saw the different commercials she shot with all the different outfits, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Cosplay, Christy
Cosplaying.
Noem.
Yeah. So do you have a dark horse in there that you think might go? Is there somebody that
Um,
maybe we haven't talked about that you're just like, that guy's
Probably, I would probably offer Linda McMahon, um, because what she's been tasked with by Trump isn't getting done.
Yeah.
But that's my third level of choice. Um, he's fired a bunch of generals through,
Right.
you know, these are 4-star generals that had 30 years in. They were going to retire soon anyway. He's not firing brand new appointed 4-star generals. And there is this worry on the left that he's creating a loyalty army out of our armed services. And I'll remind
Right.
everyone that 90% of the people who make 1 star and up in each of the branches, 90% of those people went through an academy, whether it's West Point or Annapolis.
Right.
And after being an officer for 10, 15 years, you realize that the White House is not your boss. The American people are your boss. You're
Right.
not There's not going to be this like some banana republic where they're going to be loyal to the king. Like the king's not going to be around forever.
Right.
The king's hurting, by the way.
Yeah.
You think, you know, he does a mental acuity test, and then the next day they order an MRI. I'm sorry, folks, but that's the sign of a problem. And
Yeah.
like everything, he spun it that he took an IQ test. That was, the best MRI the doctor ever saw, the
Never
best
saw. It's the
IQ test,
best one they've ever
you know,
had.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's that Trump bloviating bullshit that we're all tired of. And
Meanwhile,
man,
he can't walk a straight down the red carpet. He doesn't stand for very long ever anymore.
no, no. What are your what's your current opinion? Not your past opinion, but what's your current opinion of Governor Gavin Newsom?
Well, my current opinion of Governor Gavin Newsom is this. It's changed from my past opinion.
Yeah,
You're right with that call.
yeah.
I'm just going to say this. Look, people, and it'll be recorded for time immemorial. People can hold my feet to the fire. I believe that, and let's be clear, the thing that he's doing is the same thing I want the president of the United States to do. He's surrounding himself with smart, capable people to
Hmm.
help him in his mission. That's first and foremost. This isn't just Gavin Newsom. It's coming from him or he's taking good advice, however you want to play that. This guy is the punch is perhaps the first punch that landed, right? To the bully's nose. And in our entire strata of left-wing people, and I love Harris and I love Waltz, right? And I did everything I could to make that happen. And I still have ex-friends who wanted to talk about how bad they were on their Gaza. I'm like, really? Look where we are now,
Hmm.
right? Uh, I have a very simple theory of politics, which you may or may not agree with, which I learned years ago, which is that nobody is magic. Not any one person is going to get everything done. And if you only had 5 things that you wanted to get done in your lifetime by the government, probably 2 of them or 3 of them, if you're lucky, will happen, right? The women's right to vote, civil, you know,
Civil Rights Act.
whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
People in government keep their job by doing what they promise the people who voted for them what they do, right?
Hmm.
So Trump promised he'd make it miserable for everybody. And that's why his base likes him,
Hmm.
right? Obama, when I say this to people on our side, they get mad at me. Obama deported way more immigrants than Donald Trump, but he did it the right way. Everybody had
Criminal
their due
record.
process.
Yeah.
Everybody had legal representation. It was not separating kids from their families or just going and grabbing a line cook who's never done anything wrong in his life because of the
Yeah.
color of his skin, right? So Obama did that, and it was a kind of a boiling point for me. But you know what? He put on the face. I voted for him to put on. He did the things. He made this country safe. He made us respected around the world with his presence and his demeanor and his intelligence. And by the way, and I know she wasn't elected, but I don't give a fuck, his amazing wife, right?
Yeah.
These are things I am proud of to this day. I have a 44 tattoo that I got on inauguration day for him because I was so proud of him and so proud of that
So
election.
that's not in honor of Reggie Jackson, former.
Well, when Claudia said something, she goes, some racist is going to say something. I'm like, what? You don't like baseball? Yeah. So it was kind of like,
Mr.
but
October.
but I think in the field there, I think Buttigieg a little bit. I think he's just playing around the edge. I gotta say, there's something to be said for a fucking golden retriever that comes running up to you and wants to get pet, right?
Hmm.
And just wants to make you happy, and will fetch the ball for you, and that's Gavin Newsom. Plus, I gotta say, like I said, he's surrounding himself with those tweets aren't him. That's a
It's a
Hispanic
PR team.
woman and her crew
Yeah.
making that happen, right? And that and with MAGA, it's like, oh, well, he doesn't write those. This woman, right? I'm like, yeah. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but that actually kind of is a big plus in my book, right?
Yeah.
You want it to be a negative. I'm like, that's great. His team looks like that. That's excellent.
And
I,
and the
I,
the image that is burned into my memory for all time is the picture of them on the tarmac, Newsom and Trump, and Newsom's pointing his finger right in Trump's face. We
yep.
don't know what they were talking about, but that's a campaign image right there.
I'm telling you right now, if you'd asked me 3 years ago, it would have been a completely different answer. But my current present day is that's our guy.
Okay. I don't
What do
disagree.
you think?
I like him. I've seen some things that have given me pause over the past 6 to 8 years. Um,
Me as well.
there's been some transgender things that he did in California that I probably don't agree with,
That's one of my huge black
but
red flags. Yeah.
in the big scheme of things, there are people who are electable, and there are people who are probably not electable.
Right.
Josh Shapiro, Pete Buttigieg are probably not electable across the vast majority of voters in this country. You and I would vote for Newsom, Buttigieg, Shapiro, Mark Kelly. Um, Honestly, I think Mark Kelly is probably a great vice presidential candidate with
I
Newsom.
I think that too. I think that's a good ticket.
Military, vet, astronaut, scientist. Come on, you can't lose. You know,
And presents so well,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Really good in interviews. They put his feet to the fire in some of those talk shows, and he's just like, boom, 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 boom. He
And
doesn't
his
miss a
wife being
beat.
a survivor of political gun violence, Gabby,
Yeah,
so he's got all the things, gun rights, etc. Gun violence issues. He's in Arizona, and so I think Newsom Kelly might gain some traction.
I think so too. And in reference to the things that he's done that you and I both have a little problem with, I refer you back to the beginning of my talk about him. He does surround himself with good people. I think since some of those missteps, he's gotten newer people,
Yeah,
right? And to go to my theory of politicians, he can get the presidency the first time, but he's not going to get it the second time unless he walks back some of that trans stuff and some of that homeless, some of that stuff that he's done. And you can do it. We have gay marriage rights from a president who would not take a stand, right?
right.
And then did.
Yeah, you've got to
That's how it works.
when you're elected, you have to evolve, and
Yeah.
you have to show that you're evolving.
I mean, Johnson from Texas signing in all the civil rights bills. And not just signing it like it was put in front, worked his ass off for it.
Yeah,
Now, I don't want to besmirch anybody because what he did was good. But if you think back to Lyndon Johnson's history in the 30s and 40s, I'm pretty sure if you knew him then, you would never say that was going to be the man putting pen to paper to make sure that people of color got the vote,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Well, and I
and
think
got equal rights.
early Lyndon Johnson lived in a bubble of local all white people. And as he
Yep,
ascended in his political career, he got to see more and more of the country. And
right.
he got to see the plight of people of color in this country. And I
Yeah.
think that was his evolution.
What's the
Um,
what's the phrase? Travel erases bigotry. And it's true.
yeah, you're
It
not wrong.
really is. I
You're
mean,
not wrong.
if you have a half a brain, if you're willing to do it, and I would hope so. Not to hijack this, but did we talk about MTG?
We
Your
did at the
theory?
beginning, but we were talking about her divorcing herself from Trump and her announced
Yeah.
retirement. But what did you want to add?
I just wanted to touch on one thing here. And it goes back to the whole MAGA falling apart and the bulliness, right? AOC put out a thing, and it could be 100% correct. It's like, look, she's retiring 1 or 2 days into getting her fully vested pension.
I saw that.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
And that could be it.
yeah.
But this is what I think. She's already rich now, so I don't think that really matters too much to her. And she's going to make whatever she's got a built-in cash cow with her personality and her base, right? It'll work. I have to tell you, I think this might be timed to flip her seat as a fuck you to Trump.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't think that's a little. I think that's. I mean, I know that that's part of it. I have to tell you, I think that's actually it. I think that was her thought. I don't think it was a byproduct of her thought. I think
No,
that
this
it
is a
was
revenge move.
her thought.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. She won't take. I would just say, hey, I want somebody who's going to fight for what we talked about, and if it happens to be a Democrat, fine.
yeah. I saw this. I saw the tweet by AOC, and I immediately did a 20 minutes worth of research.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene was elected in 2021, and her pension is not something that is going to be anywhere near her salary of 168 grand a year.
Right.
Um, it's chump change. But what she probably has done is, like you said, made relationships, been in on some stock deals, whatever. Usually, it's the senators that get rich, not really the reps. Um,
Exactly.
but I think what she has done in her appearances on TV the last 2 weeks, namely The View, is she's learned that there's probably more money and less headache in being a talking head. And
100%. Well, I think that's where
she'll be
she's
a
going.
talking head on all of TV, not just Fox Faux News.
I believe that to be true as well. I also think she might be setting that up, and that might be the plan. If I were her, that would. I mean, well, first of all, if I were her, I'd hang myself. But that's neither here nor there. Um, somebody hopefully giving, you know, the guy she's dating, if she's still dating him, the journalist. I'm sure he has some input. I'm sure it's like, why don't we do a thing? Right. Or maybe it's just his people have talked to her and said, look, you can make $10 million a year out the gate
Yeah.
on a whatever. And it doesn't have to be Fox. And you're right, it shouldn't be Fox. She is primed. So she could be the anti-Trump right winger that takes off, if that
Or
makes sense.
maybe she's trying to recreate the party.
It could be. It could be. I don't know. Maybe we're giving her too much credit. Maybe we haven't given her enough. I don't know. But I do know this, as much as a negative thought patterns, I'm just going to try to be polite. As much as we view her negatively, there are 68% of the country views her positively, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And she does have a voice. And I, I think this is the one that's terrifying Trump.
Yeah. Oh
If you
yeah.
want, because of how the reactions and stuff, this is the one, right? Loses the election. But that the last election I can't remember. God, it's like living in a vacuum, but it was 3 weeks ago, whatever the hell it was. Loses the election. Still, no matter who or what anyone says, he is personally being blamed by 78. It was yesterday, it was 78% of the country still believes that that shutdown was all Trump, right?
Right. They
So he
failed in blaming the Dems for that.
hasn't moved the needle there, lost those elections. He's the tariff thing is killing him. And I love how he's trying to spin it as, well, I'm taking all these bad tariffs off foodstuffs
Yeah.
to help out. It's like,
Yeah.
motherfucker, you were
Yeah.
the one who put them on. Let's get the first part of that
Most of
sentence.
our audience is smart enough to see that,
Right.
and even the farmers, the cattle ranchers are all like, "What the fuck are you
Yeah. And now
doing?"
soybeans, right?
Yeah.
Soybeans finally went to an epic price, but none of the soy farmers this year can sell them because they've all gone to waste. But election, tariffs, all of this, I think MTG is the one that hits home to him.
Yeah. The
It
cracks are
really
in the
does.
pavement,
I mean,
folks.
I mean, not. I don't want to sound misogynist, but this is just, it's a trope that people use in movies and in stories. But it's like the crazy woman who stalks you forever, right? Because
Mm.
she's in love with you,
Hmm.
and then she stops, and you're like, what the fuck? Why don't you love me anymore? You know what I mean? It was
Right.
like you never gave her a chance. Otherwise, you just kept her around because she boosted your ego. But as soon as
Well,
she veers off, you're crushed.
I would say you're not being misogynistic. You're recognizing that Marjorie Taylor Greene created an image for herself the
She did.
past 4 years. And now, thankfully, she's recognizing that she has to pivot. And she
Yeah.
has. And the fact that she sat there with Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg and talked to
Right.
them, I urge everybody, if you haven't seen that clip on YouTube, watch her appearance on The View. Even if you hate her as much as I do, watch to see um, what she's trying to pivot to. And I think MAGA world might get reinvented. I mean, Newt Gingrich tried it with the Tea Party, 30 years ago or whatever.
Right.
It remains to be seen. Let's talk about what you got going on. There's this band called Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Has the audience heard of them?
Has anybody heard of those guys? So Martin Atkins. Well, just some background. So the thing behind me is the Extremities album art cover. Killing Joke was in a pretty bad spot right before that. Everybody had left. It was basically Jazz and Jordy was fed up, and Jazz was kind of veering off into whatever. And then Paul Raven and Martin Atkins came back, rewrote some stuff, recorded a bunch of demos here in Chicago with Albini at his studio just to show them what it could sound like.
Mm,
Built it into this record. And 35 years ago, actually this month, 35 years ago, they released it. And it went crazy. There's always been a hardcore Killing Joke base and a semi-hardcore. So they have 3 or 4 levels of fandom, right? But
mhm.
people they're one of the bands people wait for what their next record to come out. They look forward to it, right? And this
Yeah.
was this. There's people, and this is also an introduction record to a lot of people who weren't fans at that point. Um, Paul Raven passed away, unfortunately, quite a while ago, '07, and then Jordy passed away last year, and obviously with Albini too. And Martin wanted to revisit it, started listening to it, was pretty cathartic. He got a hold of Jazz, said, I want to do something. Jazz is like, I'm writing a rock opera about Aleister Crowley for the London Philharmonic, so I can't be part of it, but I love your vision. Do what you're going to do. Well, Martin got together, and because he had pig face, he's got that's his baby. That's there's so much. There's a certain skill set of just gathering people, right, to do stuff that he is the best at.
Yeah.
So when that record came out, I tour managed that band. Martin put me in that position. We went around the world. I mean, that's uh, amazing life.
Chapter 6 of your upcoming book, right?
It is pretty much. It's a pretty much. I would say, the Killing Joke tour is a good 30% of the new book. Fuck you, we're from Chicago. But so he got together and he had some people like Lilo Royale, who was just an amazing cellist, and Dirk Flanagan, and I Speak Machine, and Orville's helping out, and then he gets Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, who is a huge Killing Joke fan. And speaking of books, in his book, when Martin called him, because he'd done a couple things with Pigface, right? A bunch of stuff with Pigface. Somehow it had never gotten in the conversation about Killing Joke between he and Martin. Martin calls him up and says, by any chance, are you a Killing Joke fan? And he opens his book to like the fourth or fifth chapter, takes a picture of it and sends it to Martin, and it's entitled "Money Is Not Our God," which is the hit off of the first single off of that record, right? Martin's like, oh, okay, well, you're in. So we're all gathering together. Reggie's, which is an amazing venue, has been very, very, very nice to me. Opening for because I've gone down there and told stories for like Galen and a bunch of other people, and I was down there for the pig face thing back in 2015, which was nice. This time we're doing all of it at Reggie's, which is very, very nice. Thursday, if you're in the VIP ticket holders, there's a dinner, and Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, it's going to be a Thanksgiving dinner with a bunch of, vegan options and stuff that Reggie's was putting out. And it's the actual final dress rehearsal, which I'll be at, and I probably won't talk, but maybe I will. But then Friday and Saturday, they're playing the entire record. Not in a row, I don't think. Actually, it's kind of under wraps. I'm not 100% sure. Different people are doing different things, right? But it's that, and then there'll be a couple other Killing Joke songs
Awesome.
as out of that. And I am honored and humbled, which is not normal for me, that Martin has asked me to get up and tell stories before that. Tour stories, which I sometimes tell at his museum, the Museum of Industrial and Punk Rock. And so I'm doing that Friday, and they've added the second show on Saturday because Friday sold out. So that's a pretty big deal. There's a big demand for it. And there's going to be some live streaming too because people all over the world want to see it. People already are like, please just bring this show to England. Bring it to, you know what I mean? He's like, how about we just do a live stream? That would be maybe a little easier. So that's
Good.
what I'm doing. What have you got coming up?
Bill Savely and I are doing a Medusa's tribute night on December 6th, Saturday, December 6th at Liars Club. And beyond that, I'm just keeping low profile. Now that ICE is out of Chicago in great numbers, I can stop driving around and doing that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And trying to focus on my health and my career and maybe some hobbies. When
Cool.
can we expect? Fuck you, we're from Chicago.
Well, that
To
ties into what we just
yeah,
talked about a little bit. Yeah. So after these things, it's just been a crazy last half of the year. So I was hoping to have it done for the show. It's not going to be. I put a Substack out, but I lost my job. I got a job, so that's fine. But I'm not the kind of guy who go, oh, I'm off work, so I can relax, right? So I was just a ball of tension while I was unemployed. We were fine, thank God. I mean, we were okay, right? But it's still, I just could not get the work done. Went to Maine, got a little bit done. So Saturday's the end of that show. I'm going to say my goodbyes to everybody. I'm going to come home to my little house, my little sweet wife and house in the suburbs, and I am going to shut my trap and finish the book. I'm going to hunker down for a long winter nap and get this thing fucking done. So you can probably expect it end of January, middle of February.
great.
I have a bunch, it just needs to be fixed. And
Sure.
as somebody who writes things, you know exactly what I mean.
We're all looking forward to reading it and the book tour and all the stuff that surrounds that.
Appreciate that. Well, you and I will be talking about things in the interim, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And I urge everybody to follow Steve on Facebook. You don't have to friend him, but you can follow him, stay up to date with all of his efforts. And we've covered a lot today, and we continue to monitor and fight where we can. So thank you for your time today, Steve.
Thank you.
Um,
I'm always pleasure to do this. I love doing this with you.
and I as well. And I urge everybody to subscribe to both of our Substacks, and we will see you all in the near future. Thanks again, and have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Great Thanksgiving, everybody.